So is that the value that we want to communicate? And I venture to say that we would all rather have kids who are mature and responsible than a kid who's just simply technically competent. And I also would personally say that unless you are going to law school or grad school, grades ultimately do not matter that much. And even in the context of law school, grad school, PhD, grades would only matter so much. And in the workforce, it is ultimately how you relate. How you relate to your peers, how you relate to your boss, how you take ownership of your work, how you manage other people's work. That is much more important than simply how did you do in this one class way back when. So how do we give it good, how do we set this attitude, this example of maturity and of responsibility? And I think a lot has been already said, and I just want to reiterate that, giving the kid freedom to explore is key. Giving the freedom to fail is key because if you're hitting the target, if you're hitting the bullseye, every single time you're close to the target. And I think the best way for kids to grow up is to experience the natural consequences. So I will go into a little bit of that later. Actually, I'll go into it right now. So I do actually also believe that in high school, the most formative years will be junior and senior year of high school. So those are the times when the kid's just about ready to go into college. In the later years of his teenage years, if you are still setting up his schedule day in, day out, to the point where he has no freedom, then there's something very wrong with that. And I will give a personal story. I know someone who's actually a pretty close friend of mine. He actually shared with me, his mom would have this day-to-day ritual set up for him, All right, Johnny, every day I'm going to wake you up at 7:30. I'm going to drive you to school. You're going to go to school, and I'm going to pick you up at 3:30, and I'm going to take you to piano, and you're going to practice, and then you come home from piano, and you're going to do work, and I'm going to sit next to you while you do your work. And you're going to work until you're done. And then when you're done, then you can play computer for 30 minutes. And then you go to sleep. So every day. And I'm sure that the mom had really good intentions, but I think what actually happened was, Johnny had felt no sense of ownership. He ended up feeling a little bit resentful. And I do know him from college, and what ended up happening was he did not have a scheduled day. It was like a complete reaction to how he was brought up earlier. So, now I do also want to say that, freedom without consequences is equally as bad. And by that I mean, if a kid makes the wrong choice, help him to take ownership of the wrong choice. So I'll give another example. I have another friend, Anthony, in college. He drove a really nice, up-to-date BMW, year 2003. It was very nice. I sat in the car. It was really nice. So one day he was at a party, partied really late at night, and then he had a bit to drink, maybe a bit too much, and unfortunately he probably was not in the best state to drive. But what happened on the freeway? He was driving a little bit too fast. He got into a car accident, and the car was completely totaled. So fortunately, nobody was hurt, but now he did not have a car, and he was liable to the person that he hit. His insurance went up, and you would expect, and I also would hope that there could be much that he could learn from this. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, he got another car. It's an Acura RSX, and I asked him, "How did you get a car so fast?" He said, "Oh, my mom bought it for me." So there is. And I said, what about insurance premium? What about the debt? He's like, my mom paid for that too. So that kind of goes into, similar to the law of gravity, there is the law of consequence and boundaries. Let's say you own a house, this is just an illustration, you own a house and you have grass in front. And in order for the grass to stay green, you must water your lawn. Now what happens if your neighbor also has green grass, but he kind of configures the sprinklers on his lawn so that it sprinkles onto your lawn, into your grass. then your grass stays green regardless of whether you sprinkle your water, your grass or not. The natural result of that is you're not even going to bother. And I think a lot of the times, unfortunately, parents now, we can be very enabling for our kids. Like take, for example, my friend Greg in the beginning. If the only consequence of him not playing more games is his mother or father nagging him, then he's not going to experience any of the consequences, and that's what he's going to take with him in college. So I hope I'm giving an appropriate illustration of kind of where I'm getting at. And yeah, so now I kind of want to go into the more details of how we can mitigate some of these things. And I do also agree that, hopefully by the time our kids are 16, 17, about to enter college, that they will be in a place that they are mature enough. And to be fair, not every kid is at that stage, which is okay too. But I'm just going to speak it as a generalization. So some of the prevalent issues that kids might face when they go to college. So I'm going to cover the area of fiscal responsibility right now. I kind of went over the idea of driving the car. I think a more appropriate response would be, empathize with the kid that whether he feels bad or not that he crashed his car, but don't buy him another car. Help him to take ownership and have him pay his insurance. If he wants to get another car, put him to work. Tell him get a job, and offer maybe to fund for half of the car, but ultimately he has to make that choice and make that decision. And the kid might not like it. He would probably much rather that you buy him a car. But then he knows the consequence of what happens when you get into a car accident. Because let's be honest, if I get a new car every time I total my old one, then what's going to stop me from getting a car accident every month? I'm just saying. And another example would be credit cards. I know credit cards can be a bit scary thing because it's very possible that your kid might go into debt. And I would suggest that if your son or daughter goes into debt, then don't bail him out. Have him or her go to work. And that way he knows what it means to manage his funds, and it also helps him understand that money does not grow on trees. Okay, so I know some of you might be thinking, the best way to not have my kids go into debt is to just don't buy them a credit card. And I actually have experienced that because two of my roommates in college, in their entire 4 years, they didn't have a credit card. So